I mean, pretty much, I'm just really excited to talk to you about your journey. What do you really want to shape in this industry? What are you hoping to accomplish? I mean, you've done so many things, the treatment from before, and now you're in this new spot. I want to hear about your journey, your vision for what you think that we need now that's important.
So I came back because of the fentanyl issue. That's why I came back. Um, Also, I wanted to tie that in to homelessness because of the encampments that we're having here in LA are the worst I've ever seen. And this is where I grew up. So I hired a CEO who I believe to be the best CEO in the industry. It took me 9 months to find her. And she's scaling. And she's going to scale 1,000 beds that are affordable beds. And we're going to pull military veterans right off the street, get them their benefits, and treat them, and then do a whole wraparound services with aftercare. So that would be like a sober living and an IOP. And then they go into permanent housing or maybe transitional and then permanent housing. And while they have their group therapy and their individual therapy once a week. And we have therapists roaming the think kibbutz mixed with Habitat for Humanity,
Mm.
right? So we're going to be teaching these guys how to build their own homes. So this one will learn flooring, this one will learn woodworking, this one will learn plumbing and electricity and drywall and foundation. And some people can't do any of that. So they'll plant vegetables or because they'll have the all organic vegetables, like little farms, right? And then, you know, maybe they can't do that. So when people come in, they'll give them an orientation, right, of where everything is. But what I'm most excited about is to take these people who have already been there and take them back to the encampments where they were. And they're like, come with me. It's a better deal here.
Yeah.
And, you know, my biggest regret in life is not going into the military. And so this is my way to deal with it. Yeah, it's tough, but I'm becoming friends with people at the Veterans Administration. And turns out uh, I was with him for 3 hours a couple weeks ago downtown. And turns out there's $48 million that is untapped because people don't know how to get their benefits and what they're right. So at this facility that we have, and all the facilities that we're going to have, we'll have somebody whose full-time job will be to sit there with all the residents and educate them through a checklist because nobody knows. I mean, I'm looking at them like nobody knows. So I'm like, how does nobody know? Well, this person knows this little area and this person knows this. This is nonsense. You put them all on a checklist, right? And you're like, bang, bang, you want this, bang, you're entitled to it. You want this, bang, you're entitled to it. That is what we're going to do. So these people, did you know that people can go to college? Like if you've been in the military and you have children, they will send your children to college. Did you know that?
I knew that the military can go to college, but I didn't know that their sibling, their children can go as well. I didn't know
Oh,
that.
I was there and they did that right in front of me. And I looked at my boy on the way out. I'm like, you just sent that kid to college. And he goes, I did.
I want to roll back a little bit for the people who don't know about you. You went through all your stuff during the teen years. At what pivotal moment in your life, going through what you went through, when you recognize, okay, something has to change? Can you share a little bit about that with us?
Absolutely. It was really simple. I ran out of money. I mean, I ran out of money. I lost. from 12 to 37, I don't, I didn't draw a sober breath of any significance, right? So I donkeyed off 25 years of my life. And then for the next 21 years, I've been in recovery. So, you run out of money and I've run out of money a million times, don't get me wrong. But this time I was exhausted. I was exhausted. I was homeless for a short period of time. And I'm just like, this can't be what I've done to myself. It just can't be. So I went over to a friend of mine. I borrowed some money. He was gracious enough to walk across the street and do a cashier's check, so that I could give it to the sober living because, he puts cash in my hand, they turn into crack coupons, right? I mean, my best intentions are my best intentions, but they don't materialize. So he was gracious in doing that for me. And all right, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. The important point to take from that is you got to get people off the street fast because what happens is if the longer they stay, the more damage they get, and then they turn to what's called a learned helplessness. Which is just a fancy way of saying they give up. And once they give up, it's very hard to turn somebody around once they're in a learned helpless state. I mean, it really is the attunement and the connection and the empathy. And it's so much, right? Attention that you have to do when someone's fallen that deep to dig them out, right? And get them thriving again. It's almost impossible.
How do you decompress and how do you find your space specifically? Because what you're doing is so emotional and so impactful, physically and emotionally. How do you clear that energy for yourself?
Well, it's tough for me, you know. I had 5 years. I sold my last business 6 years ago. And, during that 5 year non-compete period, I was all about self-care and self-love and, really being gentle with myself, right? Man, no way. Not now. I'm working 18 to 20 hours a day. And, the only time I get really to decompress is with my children, who I adore, right? Other than that, I mean, I watch a show called Pardon the Interruption. Okay, that's it. That's I haven't missed that in 21 years and I'm not missing it. Okay, for anybody. Now, sometimes it takes me 3 hours to watch it.
Mhm.
Okay, with all the pausing and everything. But, that's the little break that I need in order to do that. And I'm also a voracious reader. I
Mm.
might read 500 pages a day, and but really the best thing that's ever happened to me is coming back to work because I didn't realize how much I missed it.
Mm.
You know, after a certain period of time, you feel insignificant, right? And if you run fast, you have to run fast. And if you're one of the best people in the world at taking care of another human being and giving them back to their loved ones and you don't do it, you're a douchebag.
You said a whole lot right there. I do want to roll back into that article in the Business Journal. There's so many points you made that were so pitiful, important that I didn't even recognize. Tell us a bit about, what you mentioned about the insurance and what's going on, the way that things are happening right now, the difficulty of payments and treatments and stuff like that. It just opened my mind to a whole bunch of things. I'm like, oh my God, this is.
Yeah, it's sad. It's scary and it's sad because we're in the middle of the worst opioid epidemic we've ever had. And I said that when I left the industry in 2018. And now that I've been back for over a year, it's worse than that. And when I left in 2018, excuse me, we had 18,000 and change treatment centers. And today, at the end of last year, we had 12,000 and change. At the end of this year, you'll have 9,000 and change. So in 6 years, you will have lost, excuse me, half of the treatment centers in the country during the worst opioid epidemic you've ever had. Now, why? Okay. Because insurance companies used to pay about 67 cents on the dollar when I was here last time. Now they're paying about 25 cents on the dollar. And the length of stay is about 3 or 4 days shorter, right? Because they've taken away an extra 3 or 4 days that these people really need, right? And so now if you have 23, 24 days that you're being authorized, you need to come back to treatment 3, 4 times. Like you have to, because you can't take someone who's used drugs for a couple decades, okay, and then yeah, 23 days, you're good, dude. Have a great life. Good luck to you. It doesn't work that way. And so if you're working on a 25% margin, like most of the treatment centers are in this industry, and they've just taken away 60% of your money, you're broke. You're broke. So that's what's going on today.
That's just so mind blowing. Let's talk about your new facilities that you have and the services you offer. I mean, it just seems like you've created such a wonderful environment of healing on all levels, emotionally, spiritually, self-care, making people feel great. So tell me about the vision when you created that image in your mind. What were you, laying out the plan and thinking the things you wanted to offer and why they were so important to have such a rounded, type of services?
So last time I helped 83 people at a time, and they were all wealthy, all of them. And this time I said, you know what? I'm not doing that. Now, I'm still going to do an 18-bed boutique treatment facility, which is, the first true ultra luxury treatment facility in the world. I mean, right? I mean, it's got a world-class spa in it, in the center, right? I mean, I went and I took the manager from the Ojai Valley Inn, which is a top 100 spa in the country, right? And I said, "You come with me." She works for us now, and she built out a world-class spa in a treatment center like that's ever getting done again. Okay, because it's not. And then just to the level of detail, um, you can get a different spa treatment every single day for 30 days and not get the same one. Then cut two, I hire Stevie Wonder's chef. Okay. Sight unseen, without tasting the food. Everybody beat me up for it. That works for me, right? You don't hire somebody without tasting the food. Like our taste buds are better than Stevie Wonder's, right? Okay. So, food's perfect. Never, this is the first center I've ever owned in my life where no one um, complained about the food. Now, why did I do that? Well, number one, it's what I know. Okay. I know the luxury space better than anybody. That's like not even debatable. Okay. Like anybody who would debate that just doesn't, is just like they need a drug test. Okay. Now, that's fine, but that's not what I really wanted to get into this for this time. But everybody forgot who I was. It was 6 years ago. I was on the news every day. I was in print every day. I've done three documentaries where I've been the expert, the addiction expert. It, I know how to do that. But the reason I needed that was so that I would have a platform like this. So that way, okay, I'm an authority again, right? And then when I speak and I talk to people and I say, hey, this is the way it is, I'm not just some guy who practiced a half a decade ago. I'm a guy in the trenches right now. So why did I do it? That's why I did it. So every time I get a beating for, oh, you're just elitist, da 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 da, okay, great. Except for 1 in 300 people that call can go to Carrara. The rest of them have to be funneled down. Well, I don't have as many beds as I would like. So, yeah, we fill those beds, but what do we do with the people that we can't treat? I have an entire department an entire department, which by the way is 95% of the calls, that makes certain that everybody is referred to a place, because I don't ever want anybody to feel like they've been blown off because they didn't have the money or the right insurance. That's where I draw the line. That ain't happening here. Okay. So what we do is we've created what I call a love call, because that's what I brought to the industry, or one of the things I brought to the industry. It's the foundation of everything is love. You come into rehab not on a winning streak. You come into rehab beaten and broken and destroyed, right? You don't need tough love. You need to be built up, hugged, held, loved, nurtured, respected, empathy, compassion, respect, safety, attunement to one's needs before they know they have one. How is that monologue?
You're absolutely right. I wish more places and people had passion and vision and your really true caring spirit. Because a lot of times I feel these facilities, like you said, you call and you don't get the answers you want. And you get people who feel like they care, but do they really care? And even just on regular things you want to call and find out, it's hard to get information. You have to go through 10 layers of things, and people shouldn't have to do that. So I really applaud the work you're doing.
If only it was 10 layers of things.
It's probably more than that.
Yeah, it's a disaster, because what happens is you call a treatment center, and if they can't place you, they go, I can't help you, and they move along. Here we say, okay, I'm going to have someone call you right back. And then it goes to Amber, and Amber says, okay, let's find a spot for you. Okay. And we have a list of everyone: military insurance, Obamacare insurance, Medicare, Medi-Cal, all the stuff that we don't take. And she goes, okay, here are the three numbers here. Here are the three numbers here. And we just give them the numbers, and we let them. So that way, the worst thing that's going to happen is they're going to call three numbers because this one's not, but this is all they take, right? This is the only three that take Medicare or Medi-Cal, right? So they call this one, they're full. This one, they're full. This one, they're in. Okay. Maybe they have to wait a couple days for a bed. Okay. Rich people wait a couple days for a bed. Okay. Life's inconvenient sometimes, but we do the best we can. And that is a must here. So I've sold a place called Cliffside Malibu. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but it sold immediately without going to market. It was so true, even though it wasn't, we weren't going to market, they just kept throwing money at me, right? So then they put me in purgatory for 5 years where I couldn't do anything. So when I came back, I already had four people with me who are my previous employees, that the second I walked out of there, it was like, no, I'm not doing this. And then I'm not working for anybody but him. So they went and they got their therapy licenses, knowing that I wouldn't be able to stay away. Right. So they knew, right? They know me. So I went ahead and I did something stupid. I bought an affordable treatment facility with 3 hours of due diligence, because that's the kind of guy I am. And uh, my four employees, the four ladies that work for me, went ahead and they looked at what I did, and they just said, you just made a huge mistake. They don't have a staff. You bought nothing. So um, I called 10 of the best practitioners in the world that work at Cliffside. And I said, I'm sorry for the late notice, but everyone comes home today. And 10 people gave their notice within 1 hour and came here. And I wanted to stay lean, and because we weren't going to be licensed for another 6 months, and this was all, outlay, no money coming in, all money going out. And I tried to be responsible, but I'm pretty irresponsible with money. So I tried to be responsible and not taking on any extra staff. But 10 days later, um, the president of my company walks in and she says, they're calling. And I'm like, who's calling? She said, the people from Cliffside. And I said, what do they want? And she said, they want to know what's wrong with them. They want to know why they can't come. And I said, how many? And she said, 14. And I said, take them all. And now I have 31 of the best people on the face of the earth, the biggest lovers you can have, people that I've all trained myself. And they walked out of a 21-year-old, fully mature business, world renowned, to come do a startup with me. It is the honor of my life that these people all came because they know who I am and I know who they are. Cut to, we've been open 9 months, but really with the staff, we've got 21 years, right? We got, I mean, finest staff, finest program in the world, no discussion. Because I would just role model what somebody else had. I don't have any ego about it. I mean, it's a fact, right? And I'm just, I've never been happier in my life. I was crying last week in the morning for a half hour. I could not stop at how grateful I was at how my life turned out.
And that's the key, gratitude and blessings. And that's why people came and followed you. I definitely would definitely want to come out there and meet you in person and maybe interview some of the staff and talk about what their journey is. I think what you're doing is amazing. I'm so grateful for Lisa for sending all this information about you.
Yeah, um, it's unfortunate, right? But they did find drugs, it seems, at the place, drugs and alcohol. And look, drugs and alcohol affect your decision making. That's just the way it works. And you see this elegant kid, and then you see the room all tore up. There's the TV is smashed and broken in a hotel room, right? I mean, how do you fall out a window? Okay, you're too drunk, you've taken too many pills, maybe you've gotten some fentanyl in your cocaine or in your heroin, right? And you're not paying attention and you fall out a window, you know? I mean, unless he knows Vladimir Putin, that was probably a legitimate fall.
Well, I'm just, again, so excited that you are doing what you're doing. I'm so grateful for the work you're doing and the help you've given to all these wonderful people out there and the amazing staff you have rallied around you or chose to be with you. So I just keep saying more blessings and prayers and moving forward. And like I said, I can't wait to meet everyone in person. And thank you so much for sharing your time with me. I really, really, really appreciate it.